Chapter 2. It only replayed. The troll's face, clear as day, with his torch in hand. He repeated his threat, muttering it in his sleep before he jolted awake. It didn't take long for him to notice something on his face. Opening his eye was rather uncomfortable due to the cloth. Well, when it came to foreign additives. Obviously, he was in pain due to the events of the other day. His stare was blank on the ground in front of him. How had he survived with the forest burning around him as he was immobilized? Finally lifting his head, he took in the strange surroundings. Delicate moon-bathed eyes would burn just as his singular one did in the blinding light of the sun. It was clear to him by the vast difference in lighting this was not his home. This forest was golden, unlike the lovely jacarandas he knew. This shelter clearly wasn't a solid structure, a couple tents and the floor made of soft fur. As much as he was concerned with his surroundings, it wasn't his worry. Sure, one of his fellows could have picked him up. But to bring him here? How could his home have been destroyed so much as to require a retreat to new lands? Pushing himself up to his feet, ignoring the slight sting in his arm, his eyes suddenly widened at the pain in his leg, instinctively collapsing, landing on his arm. The scream he let out heard less than a mile away. Growling to himself as he rolled over and tried to sit back up, he gasped. The pain was immaculate, like 1,000 knives were stabbing into his arm while being punched. His leg, the same, minus the stabbing. Grabbing hold of his arm, trying to help it, only to find out it stung worse. Rolling around, he gasped for air, digging his head into the ground as he grit his teeth, leaves crunching underfoot, not too far off. He hadn't noticed the person approaching through the distraction of his pain. It was only when she spoke up that he realized her presence. Trying to gather himself, he sat up to lay face to face with two canines. Catching his breath in his throat, the lighter one, brown piebald, turned around, rummaging through a basket, while the meaner-looking black pit stood over him, watching his every move. The piebald dog lifted his head, removing a necklace from the pile of items. Frozen, Arrow stared, clearly being agitated by it not being in his possession. His gaze was locked on to the pendant as it was handed off to the woman who evidently controlled the canines. Good boy, Chazzy. She reached out and patted the dog before approaching him and the other creature. Gently grabbing the black canine's collar, she tugged him back, causing him to release the elf. Gritting his teeth, he tilted his head down, staring through his lashes at the brightly colored person, flashing between the pendant and their face. She seemed to have gotten it swiftly, as she held out the pendant for him. This looks important to you. Perking up, he swiftly snatched it from her and held it close to his heart, muttering his thanks of the creature inside being safe. Looking from his prized possession back to the human, he nodded. Thank you. It was hard for him to give thanks to someone he hadn't known anything about yet, but it seemed that there was no hesitation to give him the only thing that mattered to him now. He's lost everything, but he still had his beautiful Nami. You're home. I'm sorry to have seen what happened. Lunarwood was so pretty. You'd hate to see it now. She sighed, plopping down beside him. Her expression was filled with sorrow. He couldn't understand the things she was saying, but she could see he was distraught in a way. Not the same as him. Different, yet similar. You don't understand human tongue, do you? It's probably best you don't anyway. It took her a moment before she cleared her throat. Liliana. She put her hand out, a warm smile on her face. My name's Liliana. Finally, he understood her. Honestly, it was shocking, her suddenly switching up in language. Hesitating for a moment, he reached out and shook her hand in return. Arrow. Ha! You elves are cute when you first meet a human. So wary. She giggled as Arrow only continued with his estranged look. Human? Is that what you are? He stated simply as he reached out, running his fingers along the woman's arm. He'd never seen anyone with such colorful skin before. Even the troll's skin was more realistic to him than her skin. Pulling her arm away, she gave him a suspicious look through narrowed eyes. Yeah, too different for your liking? Raising a brow and tilting his head, he merely looked at her, not having understood what she meant exactly. Shrugging, he brought his hands together, twiddling his thumbs. You're just vibrant. Me? I'm the vibrant one. You're the one with purple skin and pink hair. She burst out laughing, clearly mocking his idea of vibrant. Pursing his lips, he sighed. It's just different. Looking over at him, she sighed. Well, how about we get on a different topic? Maybe one more important right now. How are you feeling? Your arm and leg are broken, hence the splints. Gaze shifting. He slowly nodded, seeing what she meant. A moment of silence. He reached up to his bandaged eye. And this? Do you want to see it? She muttered, beginning to look for a mirror in her bag. In a swift movement, before she could obtain the item, he grabbed her hand. I refuse to ever look at this monstrosity.